Good morning and welcome back to Global Thrills. If you are new here, my name is Jack and I create theme park content across the UK and around the globe. In today's video, I'm going to put the two Orlando mega resorts, Disney and Universal, in a head-to-head battle to see who comes out on top. I've got 14 categories that either resort can win, stretching from best park to best food to best people. Now, of course, all of this is subject to my own opinion based on the experiences we had in Orlando last year, visiting all of the Disney and Universal parks. If you think I've missed anything, if I've missed a category, or if you disagree with anything I'm saying, please let me know down in the comments, and I'm sure we can continue the discussion on who is the best resort down there. So, let's kick off with the first category, which is hotels. I put this category first because the first thing you do when you get to Orlando is pretty much always going to be going to your hotel and checking out the resort there. Last year, we were lucky enough to stay at both a Universal and a Disney hotel. Most of our time was spent in the Disney hotel, which was Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, but we also had a couple of nights in Loews Royal Pacific in the Universal area, so we could get the fast passes there and be close to the parks in the morning. Loews Royal Pacific is one of Universal's premier resorts, which means you get fast passes on the day you check in and the day you check out. So because we had 2 nights there, we got 3 days of fast passes, which is a huge plus. If you're buying the fast pass straight up, which is something I would advise you do not do, but we'll get onto that, they're going to be at least $200 a day. So effectively, Ryan and I were saving around $400 a day, which basically means the room was free. However, the room wasn't free. It was per night, it was definitely more expensive than Disney's Coronado Springs. And it also offered less amenities. Even though Loews Royal Pacific is one of Universal's premier hotels and Disney's Coronado Springs is one of Disney's moderate resorts, you know, they're meant to be at a different level. We felt the amenities that were offered were kind of the other way around. Now, this may have been that we didn't spend as much time in Loews Royal Pacific, so we didn't check out the amenities as much, but going base by base, they just weren't equivalent. So looking at Disney's side, Coronado Springs is a lot bigger resort. When you're first dropped off at the resort, you will walk into and check in at the Grand Estina Tower, which is a giant building with a lot of the more premium rooms and also a majority of the facilities as well. You then have 3 other areas of the resort, ranchos, casitas and cabanas, which house the other rooms in the resort. Each area has its own pool, along with one main pool for the resort, which is the dig site. Now the dig site is a fantastic pool, has really, really cool theming. You've got this giant Mayan pyramid, you have a water slide for the kids, and you also have Disney World's largest hot tub, which was amazing. We made so much use of that. If you are staying at that resort, I would highly recommend checking it out because it's a fantastic place to relax and unwind after a long day in the parks. Now, compared to that, Loews Royal Pacific, which as a reminder is a premier hotel, only has 1 pool and it also has far fewer quick service food options. We felt that the food options at Coronado Springs were far superior. You have a wider range of things to choose from and a wider range of venues as well. We really enjoyed all of the food we had at Mercado de Coronado. We also really enjoyed our evening meal at the Three Bridges Bar and Grill. We did check out the Dahlia Lounge on the top floor of the hotel. That's also a really, really nice place. And in comparison, we didn't feel that Loews Royal Pacific really offered the same. When it came to the rooms, they were both pretty similar. I think the Loews Royal Pacific room was larger, with a nicer bathroom as well. Neither of them had a particularly fancy view. I think Coronado Springs looked onto the car park and the bus stop, and then Loews Royal Pacific just looked onto a pathway that went towards the parks. So if it's not clear, at this point I'm definitely going to have to give the point to Disney. On to category number 2, which is rides. Now, through and through, I'm a thrill seeker, so straight up, Universal wins this round. I don't want to do a disservice to Disney because they do have some fantastic rides, and especially in the last 5 years, they've put out some really strong hitters. You've got coasters like Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy, and you also have some other really high thrill experiences like Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, which is one of our favourites, and Rise of Resistance. However, as a thrill seeker, it just really can't stand up to what Universal offers in terms of Hulk, Hagrid's, Escape from Gringotts, The Mummy, and then of course Velocicoaster. That is my number 1 roller coaster I've ever ridden, so that's why this point has to go to Universal because they had my favourite ride ever. If you are looking at dark rides, I think in this category Disney is a lot stronger than they are in roller coasters. I mean, they have decades of history of building these incredibly detailed dark rides. However, I think Universal also has some amazing ones as well. You've got Spider-Man, first of its kind, and then obviously repeated in Transformers. And then on Disney's side, you've got amazing rides like Rise of the Resistance, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, etc. If it was just a dark ride category, maybe I go to Disney, but I'm including rides as a whole, and this has to go to Universal. Now, what is most important after rides? I think quite a few people would say theming. This is a tough category to award. I think both resorts have areas in multiple parks which are fantastic and amazing, and then both have areas which are also quite lacking. I mean, let's start off with the amazing ones. On Disney's side, you have areas like the whole of Animal Kingdom pretty much, apart from Dinoland USA, Pandora specifically in that park. You have Galaxy's Edge as a themed experience. You know, you feel like you are really involved in the world when you step into Galaxy's Edge. But you also have more flexible themes as well. Areas like Main Street USA and Hollywood Boulevard. You know, these are areas that are not based on IP, but are still incredibly well themed. You know, the music, the sight lines, the attention to detail, everything is there, and you step into that area and it's just wonderful. But the same goes to Universal. You have areas like Jurassic Park, Lost Continent, Diagon Alley, and then of course Hogsmeade. I think overall, out of all these sections, Hogsmeade is probably my favourite out of all of them, followed closely by Diagon Alley. Incredibly immersive. You really feel like you are stepping into the world of Harry Potter when you step into these lands. However, both resorts also have areas that are lacking in some way. On Disney's side, you have areas like Dinoland USA, which I mentioned in Animal Kingdom. I would also pull into this category quite a lot of the recent Epcot updates. I think the World Celebration Park is beautiful. I think the pavilions are amazing. However, towards the front, you have all of these different areas, of which I don't even know the names of because they've been updated recently. You have rides like Spaceship Earth on one side, Guardians on the other, and then Living with the Land. I think they have a bit of an identity crisis at the moment. They don't really know what they're providing anymore. As good as a Coaster Guardians is, I don't think it really fits in that area. And on the Universal side, I would say you have basically most of the Studios Park. Universal, I think, are trying to adjust this with the updates to Minions Land and DreamWorks Land, but I think there's still quite a lot to work on there. I think the central area around Central Park and the lagoon, it's not offering the theming that some of the other areas are. I think I really could award the point either way, but just in the way I'm feeling at the moment, I'm going to give it to Universal. That might be controversial, but I've gone forwards and backwards, and I think it's going to have to go to Universal. Number 4, nighttime shows. This is going to be quite a quick category because when we were there, Universal did not have any nighttime shows. They have just released a new lagoon show and a new light show on the Hogwarts Castle. However, when we were there, neither of those existed. And I also think it's pretty hard to beat Disney when you've got shows like Happily Ever After, Fantasmic, Luminous. Like, these are fantastic shows, and hands down, this has to go to Disney. And now let's flip and give a point to Universal, because I think hands down, when it comes to skip the line services, Universal easily clears Disney in this category. So for those of you who don't know, Disney's skip the line service is Genie Plus. If you want to use Genie Plus, you have to purchase it on the day of your visit, and then from 7 AM you can go and book a time slot for one Lightning Lane at an attraction, and you go up to the attraction at that time slot, enter the Lightning Lane and board the attraction with a reduced wait time. Once you've either tapped in to your reservation at the Lightning Lane, or it has been 2 hours since you booked your last one, you can then book another one. There are many critics of this skip the line service, including myself, because it means you're attached to your phone all day, trying to refresh, trying to get a better return time for your Lightning Lane, trying to maximise the usage of it, and try to get on all the attractions you want to do, which isn't something I think you should be doing at a theme park. Now, Universal's skip the line option is Express Pass, which you can either purchase per day, or, which I would advise, as I mentioned earlier, if you are booked into a Premier resort, every person in the room will get Express Pass on the day of your check-in and the day you check out. Now, comparatively, Universal's Express Pass is a lot more expensive than Genie Plus. Per day, it's going to be from around $100 all the way up to even $300. So most of the time, it's going to be hovering around the $150 to $250 mark, depending on the demand of the day. However, an advantage of that is that less people are going to buy and use the Express Pass. So when you do use the express lanes, you're going to be getting on the ride a lot quicker. Overall, especially with the value coming from if you get it with your hotel stay, I think Universal easily clears Disney in this category. It just means you have a card, you tap it as you walk into the Express Pass, and it means you don't have to spend all day on your phone, and it also gives you the freedom. You don't have to book a time slot to go in, you can just use it whenever you want and wherever you want. Now, time for category number 6, food. Food is something I think we did not do the best job of in our trip in Orlando. I think food is such a massive part of the resorts in Orlando, and I think we missed out on quite a few places that a lot of people were saying we should have gone to. I've made a whole list of places that when we go back that I want to make sure we hit. But for what we did eat, we enjoyed most of it, and I think both resorts again had hits and some had misses. I've already mentioned the food at the hotels. Obviously we enjoyed that at Disney a lot more than Universal, but in the parks, I would say Disney also has more offerings of a high quality. We really enjoyed dishes like the cheeseburger spring rolls in Magic Kingdom, the honey chicken in Animal Kingdom, and the Ronto wraps in Hollywood Studios. Universal also has some really good items like the buffalo chicken tater tots in Islands of Adventure and Wimpy's Burger, also in Islands of Adventure. Those are really good as well. However, I think overall the offerings are fewer, and I think Disney has more items where I would say to someone, yes, you have to try that. So for that reason, I think Disney wins the food point. Category number 7 is drinks. Now I'm taking this from the viewpoint of what we experienced when we were there last year. And for that reason, I'm going to have to say Universal wins this point. Most of the drinks that we had were from the refillable cups. Now both resorts offer their own versions of this. At the Disney one, we had a resort mug, which basically let us walk to a refill station at any of the quick service restaurants and fill up with soda options there. And at Universal, we usually the option which was in the parks, and per day you can activate a cup and then refill it as many times as you want, again from the same fountains. We use that cup so many times. It is the #1 tip I would have for anyone going to Universal, is to get one of those cups on the first day you're there. I think it's around $25, and then for every subsequent day you were there, it's just about $10 to $12 to reactivate it for the day. It's such good value for money. It keeps you hydrated with tasty drinks. You can have low calorie options. It's a whole wide range of options. It's really good. We did make a lot of use out of our Disney Resort mugs. However, it's a lot further to walk to these refill stations and then come back to your room. There's none based in the room areas. They're all at the quick service restaurants, which are at least a 5-minute walk away, which when you're tired after a long day at the park, you can't really be bothered to do that. I know there are a lot of specialty drinks across both resorts as well. We really enjoyed the Night Blossom at Pongu Pongu in Animal Kingdom. However, we also really enjoyed the frozen butterbeer in Islands of Adventure, and Studios as well. So for that reason, Universal has to get the point for drinks. And what do you need after you've had a lot of food and drink? The toilet. Toilets is something that's funny to talk about in a video. However, Disney and Universal do toilets really well, and I think it needs to be talked about. Now, both resorts have toilets that are really well themed and others that aren't so much. In Universal, examples of this I would say are Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade as well, where you walk in and you might have a ghost talking to you through the ceiling, or everything's just themed in, everything's done well. It's not just your classic cubicle doors like any other theme park, like everything looks like it did on the outside. You just stepped in and you used the toilet. But the same goes for Disney. I think some really good examples would be the Tangled toilets, or I think any of the toilets in Galaxy's Edge. I think those are really cool. Again, you've got like droids speaking or Jedi speaking in the background. It's just like unnecessary details that they've thought of, but it just keeps you immersed in those lands. And I actually think it's quite important. Overall, again, good aspects on both sides, but I'm going to give this point to Disney. Category number 9 is people. Now, everyone in Orlando, in the resorts, is super nice. Any cast member you ask for help, they will gladly give their help. I'll give it with a smile. If you are looking lost, I'll come up and ask you if you need a hand. Every single cast member in Disney and Universal that we interacted with was super friendly and super helpful. However, I think this point has to go to Disney because it's just one step above. You know, they're actually trying to make that magic for you. They are waving at you, they're trying to get you involved in the parades or the shows. Not that we had any bad experiences in Universal, I just think Disney cast members really went the extra mile. And for that reason, it's a point to Disney. Now, category number 10, cleanliness. Similar to toilets, again, both resorts do a pretty good job of keeping things clean. They have lots of bins, lots of themed in bins, which is always fun, but you also need people emptying in those bins. I would say there wasn't too much overflowing trash when we were there. However, we did notice it a couple of times and a couple of instances where tables hadn't been cleaned down in Universal, whereas you didn't really notice that in Disney as much. I think the custodians in Disney were more on top of it, emptying bins, keeping things on a lower level than they were at Universal, so again, this point goes to Disney. Now, a category that I think is extremely important for quite a lot of people, and that is price. Nothing is going to be cheap when you're going to Orlando. However, there is quite a big difference between the two resorts. Now, options for Brits are quite different than they are for Americans. Now, as a Brit, basically the only option you're going to have that's worthwhile is a 14-day ticket. For Universal, that ticket's going to be around £350 for a 14-day ticket, and for Disney, it's going to be around £550. Now, Disney does have 2 more parks than Universal, and also 1 more water park. However, I could probably spend an equal amount of time at both resorts and be just as happy. And when you're spending £200 extra on the Disney tickets, is it worth it? Now, because of what we experienced, I would also highlight the Halloween events as well. Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, depending what day you go on, will cost you between £75 to around £125 per person. Disney's Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is going to cost you at minimum £110, and it's going to go up even to £190 depending on which day you go on, which is absurd for a nighttime event. Like, you're only going to be there for probably 5 to 6 hours and you're spending £190. That's a lot. Overall, we did enjoy Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party a little bit more than HHN, but I think they offer a similar amount of experiences. They're very different experience. Obviously, one's aimed at kids and one's aimed at thrill seekers, teens, adults. But I think that, you equate the two experiences, you really enjoy both of them. You spent almost double the price on one as you did for the other. So overall, this point has to go to Universal. Category number 12, crowds. Like pricing, Orlando is never going to be cheap or quiet. There's always going to be crowds when you go to Orlando. I think there's things that you can do to mitigate the crowds, such as the time of year that you go and if you're going to buy Express Pass or Genie Plus. However, I'm just going to talk about how we felt the crowds were at each of the resorts. We spent one day at Disney and then we had time at Universal, then we came back to Disney. Because we had loved Universal so much, we went back there, I think, just for a day at the end of the trip as well. Our first trip to Universal, the crowds really weren't too bad. This was the end of September, which is probably the best time of year to go to Orlando if you were looking for low crowds. And we did have Express Pass, but it wasn't too essential. There wasn't 2-hour, 3-hour queues for the attractions. Earlier in the morning, things were half hour, 40 minutes, and then midday, maybe they were around 60 minutes. Hagrid's obviously being probably 80, but it wasn't too busy. However, then when we came back on that final day, one of our final 4 days of the trip, it was heaving. I think it was the weekend of Columbus Day on the Monday. So it's basically like a bank holiday weekend for the Americans, and apparently everyone came to Orlando. That was the day we really could have used Express because the queues there were massive and they just built and built and built throughout the day. Universal Studios closed for HHN, so then everyone comes piling into Islands of Adventure, and it was just too busy that we actually ended up leaving. We were thinking, maybe we can come back later when the queues drop down. They didn't drop, so we just stayed in the hotel, and I think we ended up going to Fantasmic. I think overall, Disney was more balanced. I think they do a better job of having more attractions and balancing out the queues a bit better. They do still have their standout attractions in each park, things that are going to have longer wait lines, especially in parks like Animal Kingdom, where there are fewer attractions. Maybe the crowds can get a bit bigger and they're not quite as well managed, but I think overall, Disney does do a better job of managing crowds than Universal. Right, we are almost at the end, just a couple more categories to go. Category number 13 is Best Park. Now, again, this is completely subject to my own opinion, but out of the 6 parks between Disney and Universal, Islands of Adventure is by far my favourite, and for that, the point has to go to Universal. It's got my favourite coasters, it's got some of my favourite theming, it's got some of my favourite soundtracks. Like, if I could walk into any park right now, it would be Islands of Adventure. Penultimate category, number 14. I miscounted earlier, there's going to be 15 categories. This is proximity to parks. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Disney World covers a gigantic area. They've got 4 parks, 2 water parks, a whole host of hotels, and the distance between the hotels and the parks at places can be quite large. One of the reasons I liked Coronado Springs is it feels quite central, but the only transportation option you have there is buses, so you're going to have to get a bus to each of the parks. Alternatively, Universal's resort is a lot smaller and things are all within walkable distance. Staying at Loews Royal Pacific meant we could walk to Islands of Adventure in less than 10 minutes. Literally from our room door to the front gates was probably 8, 9, 10 minutes. And that's just fantastic. You can go when you want to, you can come back when you want to, you don't have to wait or rely on buses. And we had the whole of the resort at our fingertips. We had City Walk as well, and just another 5 further minute walk, you were in at Studios Park. That was one of my favourite things about staying at Universal, was just how close and integrated everything was. And you could really do everything in the resort, no matter where you were. So as you might be able to tell, this point is going to Universal. Now, here we are, category 15, final one. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. Category 15 is future. Which resort has the brightest future? Now, if you're up to date with any of the theme park news, I think you know what my answer is going to be. Disney already has 4 parks. The probability of them building a fifth park is extremely low. I think there's lots of areas in the current parks which should be built upon first and perfected before they even consider a fifth park. However, Universal is currently building their third park, set to open summer next year, and it looks, forgive the pun, epic. For those of you who don't know, Epic Universe is going to be a highly themed theme park with 5 very different lands, where you have a central land and then you have 4 portals off into different lands. So you have How to Train Your Dragon, Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, and the third Harry Potter area, Ministry of Magic. I cannot wait to go to this park. Having a brand new ground up park in 2025 is going to be huge. The technology they're putting into it, the money, the effort, I've been following along for the past probably 2 years with the construction updates. It looks out of this world. I think it's going to absolutely change the composition of the parks in Orlando. I think people are going to really see Universal as equal to Disney. You know, you should spend just as much time as Universal with a new park as you do at Disney. And then what are Disney offering? Not that much. There's been so many blue sky projects where they say, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, and then either it gets cancelled or it takes another 2 years than they were saying it was going to take. They just opened Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which looks really nice. They've just reopened the centre of Epcot, which doesn't look as nice. And then what's next? They've been talking about Animal Kingdom, which I think will probably happen, but that's just a reskinning of an old area of the park. They're talking about Beyond Big Thunder, you know, what are they going to add in that space beyond Big Thunder Mountain? Again, that's a nice addition, but the future looks so bright for Universal, you can't deny it, and I think for that reason, the point easily has to go to Universal. Now, in that head-to-head, it's been pretty close all the way through, but the final tally is 7 points for Disney and 8 points for Universal. Universal Resort is better than Disney's Resort in Orlando. Both are amazing, but the points don't lie. If you disagree, please feel free to let me know down in the comments. I would love to discuss. If you have enjoyed, please do subscribe. There is more content on the way. If you have enjoyed the video, please like as well, and I will see you in the next one.